Hey guys, welcome to the Rusty Beauty's Garage and to another episode of our own car, the GT6 that everybody wants me to work on. And believe me, more than all of you, I want the same thing as well. But sometimes it is hard to find time, you know? Anyways, I'm not gonna waste time explaining to you how I don't have time. Let's get just straight to the point. So in the last episode, I was planning to assemble the transmission so we can put it back together with the overdrive and then put it on the actual car and be one step closer to starting the engine for the first time in 37 years. But we experienced some unexpected problems with the transmission. First of all, I ordered the wrong synchro rings, but we solved that problem. Then other things happened, but the most important was we figured that our housing is worn and our leg gear has huge end play. And when I look inside the housing, there's a big step there. It looks like it is worn, but it is so smooth that it looks like it was machined. I don't know what happened there. But anyways, that's where we ended the video. Meanwhile, I figured out an idea how to solve this problem, and I believe that we are on the right track because I'm already pretty sure that we fixed the problem, but that's part of today's video. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's get crack-a-lacking. That is 72 thousandths, 75 thousandths, 80 thousandths. Hold on, I'm turning the gear. I need to keep it in the same place. No, it's 76 total. Okay, 76 thou. Let's see how much it needs to be. 7 to 13 thou and float, and we have 76. So we need to reduce it by 69. I like 69. So we're gonna have to increase the thickness of this thrust washer on this side by 69 thou. So now just center the dummy shaft inside. Lots of wear here. No problem there. It's interesting. So we need to increase the thickness of this one by almost 70 thou. So how thick is it? So it is 66. If we add 69, that's gonna be 135, right? We want it to be 135. I have a stupid idea. How thick are these ones? Even these are not thick enough. 124. So this needs to become thicker than this. Thinking. Ta-da! What if we weld a washer to the back of this one, then we make it thinner, so the two of these add up to 135, and we're gonna use the tooth of the old washer to fit in that groove there. It's not gonna allow it to spin, but you know what, this groove is now not deep enough, so our measurements might not be correct because this groove doesn't allow our tooth to go all the way inside, and our washer is actually not all the way in, so our measurements were not really correct. So we might need to be even thicker than that. So first of all, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this channel a little bit deeper so the washer can lay flat. We're gonna retake all the measurements again, and then that's my idea. We're gonna reduce the thickness of this as much as needed, so the two together add up to the thickness that we actually need. Then we're gonna center them on a shaft. Let me see if they're gonna fit. We're gonna center them on a dummy shaft or something like this, and we're gonna tuck them here and wherever we can, and then we're gonna put both on the lathe together, and we're gonna machine the bigger one to this outer diameter, and then we're gonna have a thick washer, and this tooth is gonna still be there. Okay, we have a plan, let's execute it. So you see this step here? I'm pretty sure that this step shouldn't be there. It was worn by the leg gear, but not this leg gear, because this leg gear might have a very little wear here, but look, the teeth on the side are not bad. So this transmission, I'm pretty sure somebody rebuilt it at some point, or when they were installing the overdrive on it, they somehow took a housing that was already damaged by another gear, but I'm pretty sure this step was worn by a gear, a leg gear. Anyway, it is what it is. We're gonna have to figure out something. Okay, I hear you. You're saying, why don't we just put the washer here in the back? Makes sense, but how are we gonna keep it from turning, and how are we gonna keep the thrust washer from turning on this spacer? No, I think what we're already doing is gonna work well. I just need to file this now like crazy. That's gonna take a while, but it's working, so okay, I'll see you when I see you. Okay, I think that's good now. I was able to file the corners. That's what I needed to file, to make the channel a little bit wider and a little bit deeper there at the end. Also needed to just file a little bit here, again the corner, because it was rounded from where I bent it, and now this falls right in and lays down pretty nice. So let's measure again. By the way, look what I found here. So it tells you, I really like this manual. It says rear thrust washer thickness needs to be 66 thou. And what did we measure here? 66 thou. So this one is not worn at all. This one says front thrust washer. It needs to be 123, and we measured this one was 122. Yeah, 122. So this one is worn by 1 thou. So they're not really bad, but what's more interesting here is the distance between thrust faces in casing, and that's 6990 to 6992. Well, let's measure that and confirm that our casing is worn. Alright, so to measure this we can use my telescopic gauges, but this is not long enough. We need to add a little bit, and we can add a 1, 2, 3 block, but for that I had to flip the casing the other way around because the other side has a step. Here I can just put my 1, 2, 3 block like that, and that reduces my length by 2 inches, right? So now we can measure from the 1, 2, 3 block to the other thrust surface and add 2 inches to that. Sorry, it's hard to do this side. Okay. Okay. Tighten it there. And take it out. So let's measure this. Can I have that much? Okay, so that's 5 and 66 thou. 5 inches 66 thou plus 2, that's 7 and 66. 7 and 66. And the manual said 6990. So we have 66 plus 10, 76 thou. The casing is worn on this side. Everything matches. So we are on the correct path here. Okay. Now I have to keep the thrust washer with the tooth inside And now we can measure this gap. Normally you would measure this gap between the thrust washer here and the gear with the filler gauge. So maybe that's what we should do. Let's try with the filler gauge. 24, 23 and 22, that's 69. Let's go 69. And it's still loose. You know what, let's do the dial gauge thing. It's much easier and faster. 78 actually. 79. Okay, so we were losing 3-4 tau before. If I push more, it's 80 actually. Yeah, 80. And we want to have 7, so we need to add 73 to our thrust washer. So right now it is 67. Wasn't it 66? Yeah, 66 and a half. Anyway, we don't need to be super precise because the tolerance is pretty big, from 7 to 13 tau. We're gonna aim at 7, so if we screw up a little bit, we might be a little bit more. So right now it is 67. Let's go with 67. Yeah, and we need to add 73, so that's 140 exactly, right? So 140, so we need to reduce the thickness of this one to whatever size, so we can get to 140 altogether. Right now we are 192, so we need to reduce this one by 52 tau. Alright, so we machined this down, but it turns out that it has a little bit of a play on the shaft, and I thought that maybe this is a problem, but look at this. Even the original one has the same inner diameter, and the extra one that we have as well has a little bit of play. While the small one, the small washer, has pretty much exact diameter for here. Even the other one that we have, the worn one, is also the same diameter as this one. So turns out that the inner diameter of the thrust washer is not so important, I think. But anyways, I made this mandrel that has a shoulder here, and the diameter of this shoulder matches the big washer, and then the smaller diameter here matches the smaller washer. So now they are pretty concentric here, and the total thickness is 139. So we are close. So now using this mandrel, we need to somehow keep them together. And to keep them together, I said I was gonna weld them, but that's too much heat, and we have different materials here. So you know what? Let's braze them. I've never brazed before, so it's gonna be a first for me, but we're gonna have to figure it out. But all right, did I mention that I've never brazed before? Yep. You can tell, right? I have absolutely no experience. So, okay, let me tell you more about it. So, my idea was to do TIG welding. And to do TIG welding, I was gonna use my new TIG welder, which I haven't showed you yet because I got it, but I don't know how to use it. I'm not good at TIG welding. Okay, long story short, I got the TIG welder, I plugged it in, I set it up, but I've never used it. So it's been sitting on my welding cart for a month. So I need to TIG braze something, and I watched videos and stuff, and I said, okay, I can do that. So I come and I plug in my TIG welder to use it for a first time ever, and it doesn't work. Out of the box, it didn't work. So that was yesterday, and I couldn't do anything. So I pulled out my old TIG welder that I bought from Amazon and also never used. It sat on the cart for a long time. But this is a scratch start, and it is like really hard to weld with. And that's what I managed to do with it. I had the heat way too high, so I melted the whole entire bronze on this side. So I tried to file it, but you know, that's not gonna work. So that's garbage now, or practice piece. I went and I returned the welder. They gave me a new one, plugged it in today, works fantastic. Meanwhile, I also got the correct brazing rod, which is silicone bronze. I thought that I had the correct one yesterday. Turns out this is not. It's similar. Anyway, went to Eugene today. He gave me this brazing rod. I did a trial here and now it works great. But this is like very thick metal, you see? So now I'm gonna use this piece as a practice piece to see, because I only need to braze inside here and inside here. That's all. That's all that I need, because the outer perimeter is gonna come off on the lathe. So anyways, that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna practice here. Once I'm sure I know what I'm doing, I'm gonna use these now. This one that is worn bad anyway, so it's garbage. So I'm just gonna take a little bit off of it to make it flat on the lathe, and then we're gonna weld it to the back of this one, because this one is good, but it needs added thickness to the back, right? So now I'm gonna have to do the same thing. We're gonna have to machine it down to whatever thickness, so the two added together will add 240 thou. So I'm gonna do this on my own. I'm not even gonna try and show you how I braze, because I've never done that before. Well, now I have experience. So hopefully this time it's gonna work. All right, so that doesn't work, guys. I'm becoming better and better in thick brazing. Some of these became pretty good tucks, but look at that. I am melting the bronze on the thrust washer, because in order to melt this rod, I need to have certain amperage. But when the amperage is too high, I'm melting also this bronze, even though I'm working from the back here, but I'm melting the bronze here. When I lower it, this doesn't melt. So I can't find the sweet spot, and I don't think there is sweet spot. As soon as this melts, this starts melting as well. So that's not gonna work. You see here, because this is a thick metal, I was able to crank the amperage up, and in the beginning it wasn't high enough, but then I increased it even more, and you see here it works just fine. So I took these other washers that I had. This is the one that was pretty rough, so I had to smoothen it, and that reduced the thickness, but that doesn't really matter because we're not using this surface. That's just a backing for this washer, which was also not great. So I smoothened this one a little bit too, but it has lots of meat here, much more than what this originally has anyways. So when I put them together now, I have exactly 140 thou, 139 and a half. So now we are at the same situation where if I tag them together, it would be great. But then I thought about it, and I'm thinking, why do I need to tag them? The tooth on the outer one is actually sticking just as much as this tooth. So that is gonna fit into that channel, no problem. If we put this at the bottom there, and this can go on top, like that, and if I even take the original shaft and I fish it through here, like this, you see this one is locked, can't go anywhere, and I'm pretty happy with that. So in this case, I don't even need to weld them together, and I know this one is gonna go up and down on the shaft, but that's the original one that goes on the other side, right? So it does the same thing there. So I don't know why it is like that. Well, I don't know why this opening is a little bit bigger, but doesn't really matter. So all I need to do is just find a way to stick them together initially for the assembling process. But once I assemble everything, I don't really care. So I'm just gonna figure out some kind of a glue. And here I was gonna reduce the diameter of this big washer, but I'm thinking if I reduce the diameter, I'm gonna have to get rid of the tooth, and I don't wanna do that. But it doesn't really matter because, yeah, this is small, but this there's no problem of having a bigger diameter thrust washer here. There shouldn't be any problem with that because this is higher than the teeth. The teeth of the gear are a little bit on an angle here. So that's perfectly fine. So there you go. That's how we're gonna do it. For now, I'm just gonna stick them together with some grease, but for later we're gonna have to figure out a better way because we're gonna have the cluster on top when we're gonna have to assemble the leg gear on the shaft. For now, I think we can get away with it if we just put them like that. And now lower the leg gear. Put this thrust washer on this side. And now you see how much tighter it is, actually. Hope it's not too tight. There you go. You know what, let's fish the whole shaft now. Okay, and moment of truth. Spinning freely, but I don't think it has any end play. I think we need to take a little bit more out. Yeah, you know, even though it spins, we don't want to leave it like that because when it gets hot and it expands, it will get tighter and it's gonna put preload and it's gonna wear the thrust washers, of course, and at some point it's gonna get where we want it to be. But no, we're gonna do it the proper way, but I'm happy this works. Look at that, exactly 7, so it's -1 to 6. I love it. Perfectly good. Just enough. Problem solved. And you see now it spins freely, no problem. Okay, so now we're gonna take it apart again. We're gonna glue the two together and then we are ready to start assembling, I believe. Alright, in this case we are ready to start assembling. We made sure that everything is within tolerance, all the parts that needed to be replaced are replaced. This I was able to glue together with instant glue. They're one now. I mean, I only care for the glue to hold until we assemble it. So, first of all, let's assemble the main shaft. So for the main shaft, we know that first gear goes on this side of the shaft. We have this split thrust washer that goes in this channel, and then the first gear goes here, right on this surface, and then we have a thrust washer on the other side. And what keeps them together is the bearing and a circlip. But this bearing goes on after the whole main shaft, the whole cluster is inside the housing. So if we just put the gear now, there's nothing to hold it in place, and it's gonna keep sliding out on the shaft, and the split washer is gonna keep coming off. Ask me how I know that. So first we're gonna assemble this part of the shaft here, which is the hub and the two gears here, second and third gear, and then the circlip on the other end right here to hold them together. And once these are assembled, we can assemble the other part and we're gonna put them in the housing, which, by the way, first we need to drop the leg gear inside before that, so we're gonna get there. So first is this hub. Let's put some assembly lube right here on these splines. So let's put everywhere assembly lube. So now on some shafts there's a bow inside this hole, and this thrust washer has a slot that the bow fits into, and then this washer can spin. Here, for whatever reason, it's designed so it can spin. Now this hub has a direction which we determined in the last video, so if you haven't seen the last video, you should better watch that before you continue watching this one. So we determined that this is the direction of the hub, with the lower boss towards first gear and the higher boss towards second gear. So we're gonna put it on like this. Then this thrust washer, which has this channel, and I figured that the channel goes towards the bushing of the second gear. So that's how we're gonna put it here. lubricate that as well. And now we have the gear with the bushing inside, which we can put now here actually, and lubricate it as well. And the synchro ring, don't forget the synchro ring. They go together like this. And the tabs of the synchro ring need to fit into their slots inside the hub, like this. Okay. Next, we're gonna lubricate here, of course, the thrust washer, which goes between second and third gears. Lubricate the other side. And then third gear, the same way. It has a bushing, so let's put the bushing first. These bushings again to check the protrusion, and they are at the lower end of the tolerance, but they are within tolerance. Let's lubricate this as well. So this gear goes the other way around because this hub goes here. And now we can put the synchro ring later. Here we can put now this thrust washer, which goes like this. Let me just lubricate inside. Goes like this, so we can put the circlip. So right here inside you can see now where the channel for the circlip is. This circlip is notorious for snapping, and when it snaps, these gears start moving left and right or back and forth, and you start getting pop-off first or second or third gear. That's why always replace this circlip. So we're gonna go on the vise with soft jaws, of course, the rubber ones. For here, there's a special tool. Dave called it, he gave it to me, but this is for TR6, so it's much bigger. It's like a funnel, and you put the circlip on top and you slide it down. This fits right here. So maybe I should make something like this for my Spitfire and GT6 transmissions, but I think the shafts are all kinds of different sizes. So what I do is I do it with a screwdriver. See, it's not that hard. Once it's on, you can just slide it down until it clicks into its channel, like this. Now, I hope that we have everything installed, because if we want to take this out, we almost always destroy it. So here is now where the synchro ring comes, and this other hub again has a lower boss and a higher boss, and the lower boss is towards third gear. That's how we determined it last time. So again, it goes on the splines, and we need to turn the synchro ring until it falls inside the inside these three holes. So this side is assembled, and let's assemble the other side now. We can clamp it this way this time. Again, lubrication. This is important here because this surface is where the first gear rides. It doesn't have bushing. So here now we have the split washer into this groove, like this. And then the gear with the synchro ring, of course, towards the hub, and the split washer ends up inside here. So once it is inside there, it can't open and it can't come out of the channel. There you go. Then we have the thrust washer, and then the bearing and the circlip here. But like I said, the bearing goes after this whole cluster is inside the housing. So for now, what we can do is take a hose clamp maybe. Will that fit there? Yeah. We can take a hose clamp and just put it here so things don't fall apart. Now only this hub has nothing to hold it in place, so this can slide in and out. but the first gear, if we don't have anything holding it here, is gonna come down and the split washer is gonna come apart and it's gonna be a mess. Okay, and that significantly reduced the amount of parts that we have on the table now, right? Input shaft, main shaft, bearing in between, and lay gear and reverse. So now next we have to take the lay gear and drop it inside the housing. But we can't run the shaft yet because when the gear is in place, it is too high and the input shaft cannot slide in place. It needs to come and mesh with this gear, right? But these teeth here are way too long and won't allow it to slide because it needs to be at this height, right? It can't come out or it can't come in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the lay gear, we're gonna put it in place with the two thrust washers on the side, but together with the dummy shaft inside, we're gonna drop it below its height. Then we're gonna put the main shaft in the housing. Then we're gonna put the input shaft and we're gonna join them like this. So the input shaft is gonna end up just above the lay gear, and then we can raise the lay gear, and with the rear shaft, we can push the dummy shaft out. And the dummy shaft is inside because we have these roller bearings here inside, and if we don't have anything to support them, they're just gonna fall apart. So we're keeping the shaft inside in order to keep them in place. Okay. So it's going all the way down. This thrust washer is going here. I'm actually gonna put the shaft through the thrust washer so it holds it in place for now. And then this thrust washer on this side, just like we did it yesterday. I could have kept it inside, except I needed to take it out to glue these two together, because now I'm hoping that they're gonna stay right there. They can't come out, I think they can't come out. No, they can't. This won't come out. So that's it. It is all the way at the bottom. We have more than enough room here now to insert our input shaft. So now before we put the main shaft, we're gonna put the reverse gear here, because that's important. If we don't do it now, later it's too late. Now, I don't remember. I always forget whether the gear comes this way or the other way around. It is this way because multiple reasons, but it's kind of centered here, right? The pivot is centered between the two end positions of the gear. If we have it the other way around, it's gonna end up from here to here, right? But also a very big factor why this way, well, the manual says so. So why do we have such a big play here on this one? I didn't realize this until now. Oh my god, another trouble? Wow. Well, apparently that's how it is. I found from my spare parts this other shaft and this other bushing, and it just like this. That's weird. Anyway, it is what it is. So let's put it together. Now here we have, of course, we have to make sure that the lever falls inside the channel here. This hole is for the locking bolt, so we have to orient it like this. And the bushing, which I don't think we need there now, but I'm gonna put it so I don't forget it later, even though it might fall out. So this is the bolt. You see how it is. It has a pin, but the threads are here, so it threads into the wall of the housing, and the pin goes all the way in and locks the shaft in place. Okay, and now we can put, oops, you see, we can put our main shaft. So normally I always have trouble with keeping the first gear in place. This is the first time when I actually put a clamp there so it is not coming off. But also this hub, like we said, is a trouble sometimes. So that's how it goes. And it is in. And now we can put our input shaft. Of course, we can't forget the bearing. Some grease on the shaft itself. Don't forget the synchro ring. And now here the trick is to match the hub like this, but the hub needs to match both sides. So push the main shaft towards the input shaft, and now we can tap gently the bearing, and I believe it's gonna go in. But in the meantime, I'm gonna push the main shaft in this direction so the hub remains assembled here, because nothing keeps the two together here right now. See, it's tricky. You see, because I'm pushing from there. The other option is to pick it up now, clamp the shaft on the vise, and then the weight of the main shaft is gonna keep the two together, but also the housing is gonna wanna go down as well. So you know what, let's do that. So now I don't need to hold the main shaft, because the gravity is doing that job for me. And now we can tap gently here. Right there. Okay, so now we're all the way in. So now we can remove this clamp from here and put this bearing. With these small transmissions, it's so much easier. Tier 3, 4, 6. The transmission there is so much bigger, and you can still do the same thing, but it is much trickier. So now this bearing, and then maybe this old gear, the one that we can't use, yeah, and then a pipe like this, and then tap it up. Now with every blow of the hammer, I can feel that it's moving. If I feel that I hit like this onto a hard surface, definitely we don't want to force it, but I can feel that it is moving, you know. Now, I still can't see the groove for the circlip, which means the main shaft needs to go further up. Maybe we shouldn't have put the input shaft first. We should have put the cluster, deal with this bearing, because we could have put something instead of the input shaft. We could have put something from underneath that would hold the shaft and then put the bearing on. But now that we are there, I'll ask gravity to help me again. What if I lift it and just... You know, that works. I almost see the groove here now. That works. Okay. Ugh. Here is the groove. Here I need a washer here before the circlip. Yep, turns out we're missing the washer for here. Okay, I'm just gonna push it all the way down. Now the input shaft came out a little, but that's another story. Okay, so now finally everything is where it's supposed to be. So now I just need to find a washer for here, because I think that's what happened initially. That's why this whole entire transmission failed. because there was no washer there. Well, luckily in my spare parts I also have this. I have an entire transmission taken apart downstairs, so perfect. And that's exactly where we wanted, so we can fit the circlip now. I was able to put it with my fingers, but yeah, but it's not too loose, believe me, it's just perfect. Okay, now we need to put our leg gear back in place, and to do that, best is if we can put it upside down. So again, ask the gravity to help us. And we're gonna put it like this. So this is the reverse levers here. Yeah, already came in place. You see, the gear already came where it's supposed to be. We just need to adjust the washers now, which shouldn't be too hard. The thrust washers, and I can adjust it with my pinky. So let's see if we can slide this shaft then. I'm gonna go from here. Yeah. Perfect. It actually went through absolutely no problem. Except we are also missing the pin from here. Did we have a pin there before? Or it's just missing? I have to watch my video and see, but I think we never had this pin here. This pin ends up in this hole, so when we put the adapter or the tail of the transmission, if it's non-overdrive, this pin needs to point down, or up in this case because the transmission is upside down, but needs to point the same direction as here, so it can be locked in place and the shaft won't spin. Well, I can't really tell from the video. It kind of looks like the pin was missing, or that's what I'm gonna use as an excuse. Since it's missing now, I didn't lose it, it was not there anyways. I went into my spare parts again, and unfortunately I couldn't find a used one, so what I did is I cut the end of a 3/16, I believe, or some kind of a drill bit, and I made myself one. So now this is gonna fit perfectly. I already tested it, it fits. It is just long enough to close here, but not able to come out of the groove. So what I'm gonna do now, before I lose the pin or this spacer here, I'm gonna put the adapter on. So yeah, I'm just gonna put gasket maker, the gasket, and I'm gonna install the adapter so I know that nothing is gonna fall off from here. The woodroof key and the cam can be installed later. Okay. I'm just gonna make sure that I have the right gasket here, and then I'm gonna let you go. Yeah, this is for non-overdrive transmission specifically. Yeah, I'm gonna let you go now, and I'll bring you back when this is installed so we can deal with the rest. Alright guys, I think I took more than enough time from your holidays, from your family, because it is right between Christmas and New Year's right now, and I'm sure that everybody spends a lot of time with their families. So I'm not gonna take any more of it. I'm gonna let you go and enjoy the rest of the holidays, and I'll see you soon. I made a little bit more progress with the transmission, but I still have to test it, so I don't know if we've done a good job or not yet, but we'll get there. We still have to put it together with the overdrive. I'm also spending time with my family, and I enjoy it. I got a really nice Christmas gift. You see how you're tracking me? My Christmas gift is under you. It's a gimbal with tracking and all that, all these things that are supposed to make my videos better. I think it's gonna make my filming and editing a lot more complicated until I get used to it. Anyways, that's gonna be everything for today, guys. Thank you for watching, commenting, subscribing, sharing, and supporting me financially and with your comments, with all that. It is really, really appreciated. So once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.